2.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world.
Okay, so hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I had to use my friend Brandon's intro. For some reason, StreamYard is acting up. But we are back. We are Delusions of Grandeur, and we are ready with another film discussion. So, uh, we are about to discuss a movie that I've put forward since Tammy took us to the Angels with a movie. I decided to go with a 1977 film directed by Carl Reiner called "Oh God," and it stars the late John Denver, the late George Burns, and the late Terry Garr. There are a ton of actors in this that are now deceased, but this was a film at one point in time that made an impact on me, and I'm sure it made an impact on other people too, because it kind of is self-explanatory. So this is what IMDb says about the film. When God appears to an assistant grocery manager as a good-natured old man, the Almighty selects him as his messenger to the modern world. So, Boris, what was your first impression of this film, and was this a first-time watch for you?
Yes, it was the first time, and I have to say I really enjoyed this movie and had lots of good laughter with it. Truth be told, I usually when I pick movies to watch, I usually don't go for movies that are as old as this one, unless there is some how do I say it in English? Unless they are connected to something I otherwise have interest in. So, but in case of this particular movie, I would say that its humor doesn't really get lost with time, even though it's several decades old. It really doesn't take away from its humor at all. It was really hilarious. I mean, since religion and people believing in God and all that, it's all a fairly prominent topic even nowadays. So this humor doesn't really deteriorate with time. Yeah, I really had lots of good laughter with this movie.
Well,
Just finished watching it several minutes before we went live.
ah,
And yeah, it was really good.
good. Glad that you enjoyed it. You'll have to show it to your mom or something like that if they haven't seen it. But
Well, actually, I could.
but in any case, and what were your impressions of it?
Well, uh, I would say it's quite a good comedy. To some extent, it reminded me of Bruce Almighty and some other comedies where God makes contact to some random human. Uh, but yeah, it's definitely a story of its own. It's got some philosophical matters too, and but of course, it's mostly humor and pretty good humor. I also like how it emphasizes the hypocrisy of some mainstream religious communities. I mean, that topic is very prominent nowadays, so I'm kind of surprised that they went in that direction even back then. And of course, I loved the reference to The Exorcist, but we will get into that. And yeah, all the moments of God screwing around with the guy and with everyone around, it was really hilarious.
Oh yeah. So, Tammy, was this the first time watch for you? Tammy?
Um, no, it wasn't my first time, but I don't remember. I think I might have actually seen this with my dad,
Okay.
but I don't remember. Oh, I found it fun. I was telling David earlier, Boris, that yes, it reminds me of the Bruce Almighty. I said that earlier.
Yeah, I think Bruce Almighty and Evan Almighty might have gotten some of its humor stemming from this trilogy, to say the least.
Um, but yeah, I like the humor in it. It's a lot of fun. Um, yeah, it's still in Diva. Unfortunately, it's sad to say, but there still are religious. Um, I don't know what you evangelists, or was that what you call them?
Crooked preachers out
Yeah,
there.
they're still around, and people are still buying into it. So it's sad.
But yep,
But yeah, I like the movie.
I like George Burns. He's got a dry sense of humor that kind of goes with the God figure. Um, but I'm not sure when I actually first saw this. I know that I saw it years ago on TV. I didn't know exactly what it was, and then I refound it, the trilogy. I believe I rented them from a library and made copies for myself. And eventually, I did pick up the Shout Factory trilogy set on the Shout Select selection.
You keep
Um,
saying trilogy. I didn't realize there was more than one.
yeah, there's more than one. There's Oh God Book Two, and then there's Oh God You Devil.
Oh,
Wow.
seriously?
Yep.
Okay, now I'm curious. So there are sequels to this movie.
Yes, there are. Just not with John Denver.
Nice.
Just not with John Denver. Denver died not too long after this movie. Uh,
Oh,
he died in a
that's
plane crash.
sad.
Uh, but um, but yeah, I like John Denver as a singer, and I thought it was interesting that they used him because he's just because he always thanks God. He's a country boy, so um, I guess they used him because he was wholesome, you know. Um, and it just so happens he's a grocery store assistant manager. And he's always trying to do the right thing. In fact, David Ogden Stiers, who was also deceased now, very young, and definitely not as fat as he became. Um, who was also on the TV show MASH. Uh, he was the store manager, I guess. And he was trying to tell him, well, why would you want this head of lettuce if you can have this one, and he's like, well, I know my customers. I know what they will buy, and if I put that one out, that one will actually sit on the shelf forever and ever, and then we'll just never get money, and it's just a waste. But we find out that let's look at what his name is. His name in here is Jerry Landers. And Jerry Landers, we find out, has a wife and 2 kids as well. And he's not exactly a Christian, doesn't exactly believe in God. And yet, lo and behold, he gets an invitation to be interviewed by God. And at first, he thinks it's someone who likes to play jokes on them, Art Clooney, or whatever the heck his name is. I guess he's a friend who likes to play practical jokes, and they think it's him at first. But this invitation to God just keeps showing up wherever he is. First, it wakes him up at in the middle of the night. It turns up inside the cabbage, and in other places. He keeps throwing it out, and it comes back. So the important conversation that his manager is trying to have with him, he has to go out and keep this appointment with God. And when he shows up, it's the 27th floor at this building, and he walks in, starts to walk out, but then he hears a voice tell him, "Hey, where are you going? Come back in. Have a seat." So, what do y'all think about this beginning introduction to God?
It was definitely very interesting, especially that whole room and him speaking without being there, and 10 extra levels in the building appearing that don't even exist, and so on. It was quite creative, actually.
One thing I did find a little interesting is, it takes a little bit in the film before you realize he actually does have kids. You know,
Well, yeah, it does take a little bit to get to the point where, yeah, he does have kids,
I
and
know when she says, "Yeah, I'll take the kids to school," I was just like, "Huh?"
because all you see is her talking. Oh, well, he does come and kiss them goodnight. You see him come and kiss them good nights before he actually has the first conversation with his wife.
No, I must have missed that part, but anyways, yeah, it is. This is interesting because that floor that he went to doesn't exist, and you know he he's trying to figure out where God is. That's because he's talking to him through that little speaker.
Yep.
So
And
Yeah, and
then he's like, "Hey, why don't you go back to work and we'll talk on the way?" And he's like, "What? Okay." So he walks out, gets in his car, and a couple of blocks away, all of a sudden, God starts to speak to him out of a speaker of a radio that hasn't worked in quite a while. Because evidently he is driving this little grocery getter,
I I believe it's called a gremlin.
and actually it said Pacer on the back of the car.
Oh, Pacer. They were
Yeah.
pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what make or whatever it was, but it looked like a miniature grocery getter, a
I
miniature
think
station
I think
wagon.
AM at the time AMC put those out, the Pacers and the Gremlins, which AMC was American Motor Company.
Okay. Still, it was a little ass car.
Yep.
But in any case, he starts speaking to him there, and he basically tells him that he wants him to be his messenger. And he's like, "What the heck? How am I supposed to be your messenger? I don't even believe in God. I don't, all this stuff. How do you expect these? You do realize that people will think I'm nuts. You know, he says all these things way before he even begins it. You know,
Yeah, like his wife first.
well, yeah, he talks to his wife, and his wife thinks he's nuts, and she wants to bring him to I guess, his sister's husband, because evidently his sister's husband is a shrink. And she just doesn't know what to think of it, and she makes a big deal about it too, like it's annoying to her that he's got to have these biblical conversations with an invisible God that you know she knows that her husband didn't believe in it, and the fact that she's getting all irate over it is a little funny too, because it's not that big of a deal. If someone wants to talk to God, you know, why not? You know, what's wrong with that?
Oh, yeah.
Although, if your mother started saying, or father, for that matter, started as saying that God spoke to me today and wanted me to be a messenger, what would you start to think?
Well, if my father did, I'd probably really think he was nuts because I knew how he felt anyways.
Well, yeah, he himself also somewhat thought he was nuts.
Don't get me wrong, my dad, for real,
Uh,
he wasn't like an atheist or nothing, but
oh,
he
sorry, I
just.
was talking about the character. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh no, I'm still talking about the character too in a way. But David said, "How would you feel if your mother or father did, start saying what he was saying?" And I was just like, neither one of my parents were big into religion, you know.
Yeah.
So I would really think they were crazy.
It's also funny that the guy has a child named Adam.
I
Yeah,
mean, now if David's mom came and said that she talked to God, I'd be like, well, maybe she did, but she's into religion, you know.
well, yeah, she is into religion.
So is your dad. So I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
if either one of your parents said it, I'd I'd maybe think possibly, you know. But if my parents, bleh, you're right.
Definitely.
Well, and times are changing. People fall out of religion, or some people find God, and have a full-on relationship with him, often in bed with God, morning, noon, and night.
When you put it that way.
I mean, some people think that they walk on water. I mean, that's the way things are sometimes. I mean, I won't necessarily give up all my earthly goods for the fucker, but
Well, like I believe, but I don't think that I have to go to church to prove that I believe.
True, actually.
no,
As they say in this movie, religious institutions are full of hypocrites, and no matter whether God exists or not, they exploit the concept of Him for their own profit. They deviate a lot from what is said in the Bible, especially in the New Testament. Like Jesus preaches living in poverty and using what you have to do good things for others, and they do that? Not really. They just hoard wealth for their own profit, and they deceive people who blindly follow whatever they serve them.
true. And I know this is coming from someone who actually had perfect Sunday school attendance one year. I was quite the Boy Scout at one point in time. Fancy that. I am no longer. I am no longer a choir boy, but I do believe in God, and I do not think that you need to go to church just to believe in God myself. But if someone is willing to hear a theological conversation, I'm willing to go into one with them. But you know, it is what it is. Some people don't want to talk about religion 24/7. So if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. What I don't get in present day politics, the fact that people are so against people who are Christians and what they believe. Believe there are some fanatical left wing nut jobs out there, and there are some fanatical right wing nut jobs out there. So there's two sides of the spectrum, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the movie.
Yeah, although I don't know of any left-wing fanatics who actually care about God.
Uh, yeah, I don't know any either, and honestly, I find issue with people who don't at least believe that there is some kind of deity out there. I don't care if it's the Dalai Lama. At least believe in something. You know, I'm not.
Makes sense.
I'm not exactly one who thinks atheism is the right way. You know,
Oh yeah, well,
if you want to
personally,
believe in the God of chairs, fine, believe in it. You know, bow down to the chair of gods. I don't care. You can go bow down to a urinal, and I wouldn't give a shit. But you know, if you believe that there is a God that sits on that throne and think that it will bring you all the worldly goods that you want in life, then I guess have at it. But you know, I'm just stating some of these silly things that out there. It could be someone's reality. You know.
yeah, now I'm imagining someone actually believing that there is a deity inside their urinal and that they are maintaining some connection to that deity by urinating in that urinal. And I'm
Yeah, and
sorry, it's hilarious.
they're all wearing toilet seats around their necks and head. So it's up to them whatever they want to believe. I mean, Just so long as they don't like follow it off a cliff to their death, you know.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Or decide not to take their sick children to a doctor only because they believe their God will take care of it.
Oh yeah. So believing in the idea that if you think cancer away, it will happen. Yes.
Ah, yeah,
Powerful thinking at its best.
yeah, I see we both thought of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, shh, it's a secret.
Nice one.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing, guys.
But anyways, let's get back to the movie. So, but yeah, he starts spreading God's message. And what is God's message, at least in here?
Oh, that he has given us enough to make this world work, that the fact that it doesn't work and that there is so much suffering out there is our own fault.
And he gave us free will so that we had the audacity to choose what to do in our lives. We can either choose to do wrong or choose to do right, or you know, and live by you know that. Um, Tammy, what kind of message do you think to yourself that God was trying to relay to Mr. Landers here um, to the world?
Well, we already, Boris already said what the message was.
Well, is there anything that you can add?
Well, no, because because he said it more than once between him and Jerry. They, it was said more than once throughout the movie that that's what the message was. That
Okay.
he provided everything.
And were you surprised with what happened when he started to explain them or spread the message? Because
No.
the first person he told was his wife, and of course she thought he was nuts. And then he went to the Times.
Well, of course, the guy at the newspaper was going to look at him like he was a screwball because even though he didn't go to the right paper, he should have gone to one of the papers that'll print anything instead of one that does rely on facts. You know, he should have gone to maybe one of the tabloid papers, and he would have gotten a better response. But he was trying to go to a reputable newspaper to get the message out, and I understand that. But by going to a reputable one, the guy looked at him like he was nuts.
Yeah.
Or if it was a tabloid, they would have gone, "Really? What else could you tell us?" Okay, that'll be out in the evening edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I'm kind of surprised about that card with God's name on it that he presented as a supposed evidence of his interaction with God. I thought that it would perform something like that. The text on it would change when the guy from the newspaper company held it in his hands, that it would actually prove something, that there would be some phenomenon
I
happening
thought
with
maybe
it.
it, I thought that maybe at first that when he gave it to the card when he gave him the card, that there would be something that happened when he looked at the card. I was thinking that too, but evidently not. But you know what I mean about the tabloids. I could throw a bunch of a thing of a weird headband with those screwball things on Diego's head and take him to the tabloid and say he's an alien. They believe it, you know.
Well, and his wife tried to tell him seeing is believing and believing is seeing, kind of thing, and that makes sense. But it's also not the reality of what is it? Blind faith, which is another thing that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were going to
But
say
But
yeah,
something, Tim?
the regular newspaper is not gonna be they're gonna be as seeing as believing, and they're gonna want proof. Like I said, you know, the tabloids will believe anything you try and sell
Well, and so after he went to the Times, God was a little disappointed because um, it didn't seem like it took that he thought, and he was like, "Did you give him my card?" And he was like, "Yes." But he said you could pick it up in any novelty shop or whatever, and he was like, I guess it's going to be a hard sell at least at first, but at least we're starting in the game. You know what I suggest? Try harder. And so he does go back to the Times again, and this time he threatens him that he will continue to keep coming if he doesn't print the story. And then after the story was printed, then is when people started showing up at his door and calling him, and ultimately he gets a invitation to come on a talk show, and when he gets on the show, she's got a police artist who normally draws criminals.
oh, that was good.
Yeah, especially after you saw his drawing. That was real good.
Oh yes, yes,
It
definitely.
it did actually look like George Burns, so the fact that the drawing actually looked like him wasn't too bad. It's just I know his family was sitting there, and I remember his daughter saying, "I know what God looks like." Oh, you do? Oh yeah, I saw it last week in biblical comics.
oh yeah, well, interestingly enough, there actually is a paragraph in the Book of Revelation that describes specifically what God supposedly looks like, and it's actually nothing like the way they usually portray him in movies
Nope.
or
And
cartoons or comics.
so, is he a colored man?
Uh, actually, no. I think he is described as if he was made of some gemstone. I don't know the English word for it. I'll try to find it. At least I think, if I remember correctly.
You know what?
Uh,
If you go by what the Bible that we were made in God's image, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we were made in God's image, God should look like, if you are a black person, God should look black to you because you were made in God's image. If you are
see,
or
that's a
if you're Oriental, God should look Oriental to you in your mind because you were made in God's image.
And
uh,
remember, after the Last Supper, There is the story that you know, all the different disciples could speak the different languages when they were bringing about the message of the Word of God. And I do believe that there was a a flame that looked like a hoof up above their heads while they were, you know, spreading the word, if I remember correctly. Um, and they could speak suddenly. They could speak languages they never knew they knew. You know, so to me,
But
what?
but seriously, you know, when it comes to what does God look like, to me, God looks like
Mm.
whatever anybody thinks God looks like, because you were made in God's image. I don't think
If
there's
you were
any
made
right
in
or
God's image, then God looks like you.
I
To
don't
Yeah,
think,
you.
but see,
yes, I don't
that's
think
an
there's
interesting. Sorry.
I don't think there's any right or wrong as to what somebody imagines that God looks like because of that writing about that we were made in God's image. So whatever, if you know, if I want to sit there and think that he's Caucasian with long hair and bright blue eyes, okay, I can think that. But then there's nothing wrong with me thinking that that's what he looks like, you know.
What does your friend Scott say? I don't care if you're black, green, orange, or
Oh,
whatever.
Scott,
Yeah.
yeah, that was when some lady was trying to say he was being discriminated against her, and he's like, I don't care if you were purple with pink damn polka dots. So
But yep. But as the film progresses, you know, when he was on the show, God spoke to him and said, "Well, you were probably in front of millions, but you know, uh, uh, I feel kind of disappointed because um, when they drew me, I mean, they used a police guy, and normally they draw criminals. So, uh, what does that say that they're trying to say I am? You know, uh, that kind of thing. And so he eventually gets to go in front of. I guess there's a group of theologians that evidently get together from all over the world, from all different cultures, and
can I
they,
interrupt you just for one moment?
yeah,
When we are talking about, you know, what God looks like, God in this movie even tells Jerry, I I look this way because this is the way I thought would be pleasing and relatable for you. He even tells him that that's the reason that he chose to look the way he's looking right now,
and
and
also the way he sounds.
the way he sounds. Yes, because he figured that this was easy for him to relate to, and easy, and then the talking, the voice would be easy to understand.
Correct. If he
So
ever heard how he actually speaks, he would not be able to understand what he's saying in the least.
Oh, I found the description of God's physical appearance in the book of Revelation. Do you want to hear?
Sure, why not?
So it says, after this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, come up here and I will show you what must take place after this. At once I was in the spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby. A rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne. Surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. So, yeah, it describes God Himself as an entity made of jasper and ruby, which is kind of contradicting to the book of Genesis, where it says that we are all made in God's image, since apparently God looks like this, and that's not what we look like. So that's yet another biblical contradiction, I guess.
Well, and another thing, God is not just God. God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as well, in one. He but I also kind of agree with Morgan Freeman's whole statement to the character that Jim Carrey did in Bruce Almighty, where he's like, I am judge, jury, uh, uh, janitor. I am everything all in one. You know, I am omnipotent, omnipotent, and omnipresent. I am the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, getting back to the story. So he goes to this religious group that seems to have congregated around because they don't believe that he is what he says he is. But there is a big wig televangelist there that claims that he is God's quarterback, and he is supposedly speaking at the Super Bowl very shortly. um, and he gets all irate at him and suggesting that he came and looked just like one of us. Like, how dare he? I am the one who was spoken to God.
That reminds me of that song. Who is it that sings it? What if God was one of us, just a stranger on the bus, or something like that? You know that song, don't you?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What if God was one of us? That one.
Yes, yes.
But yeah. And so they pull out 50 questions in old Aramaic or whatever that they know that he cannot answer himself. And so
I thought the questions were like in all different languages too, not just old Arabic.
Oh, I think they said Aramaic. I don't remember them mentioning other languages.
and they didn't look like they were in any other language than the Aramaic. So I don't know where you were getting that.
Well, I thought because when he does show up at the hotel room and they're going through the questions, I thought he made comments. Oh, this is written this way or this is written that way. But
Maybe,
whatever.
but
Hmm.
it was made so that the questions were made in a different language that Mr. Landers couldn't understand. So he just took a pen and just wrote down every single answer, and then After that, he was told to take it to that televangelist preacher, and he's like, but he doesn't really like me. And he's like, well, regardless, take it to him and tell him to basically shut up. And tell him all these things, and he does show up there where the televangelist is speaking to his congregation, and they're brainwashing, or they're brainwashed because they're all saying in unison, and then when he expects money, they immediately proffer their dollar bills or whatever. But he's actually found in the audience, and he gives him the mic, and he starts to tell him what God sent him to tell him, and his so-called preacher bodyguards took him away, and next you see he's in a courtroom being sued for slander against this preacher. And apparently Mr. Landers, played by John Denver, decides to not ask for a lawyer or anything like that. In fact, he calls his first witness as being the Lord God Almighty. And at first, everyone thinks he's nuts. Even the judge tells him to come up, and he's like, "Don't make a fool of me," But then you hear the voice of God speaking. Excuse me, there. And the one lawyer guy is like, I would love to question this person, and first he's like, okay, but first I should probably swear on my book, shouldn't I? But you're not going to believe it.
So help me.
Yeah, he said that, and he's like, well, I am God. And so he sits down, and the lawyer stands up, and he's like, I'd love to question this guy, and he's like, sit down, Sonny. I've answered enough questions. And what does he say, Tammy? What in your words, what does he say to the whole court?
I'm not listening to this guy. My ears are broken because he's telling me a story that I can buy because there's a lot of information.
What do you mean? What does he say to the whole court?
After he said that he's answered enough questions, what does God say to the whole court?
I don't remember.
He performed some tricks that prove his divinity.
Well, he performed some card tricks, but he also states to the rest of them that there I've given you everything thing that you need to survive, and I don't understand why you had to question Mr. Landers here. He told you the truth. You decided to because you have free will to not believe him. But I tell you this. That you should be able to love each other and all that jazz. Is there anything that I'm missing, Mr. Boris?
Well, not that I can think of, but maybe I don't remember quite every detail anymore either.
Ah.
Then he performed that disappearing trick.
Well, let's see. Oh, here. Why is it so hard for you to believe? Is my physical existence and any more improbable than your own? What about all that hoo-ha with the devil a while ago from that movie?
Oh,
Nobody had a problem believing that that the devil took over and existed in the little girl. All she had to do was wet the rug, throw up some pea soup, and everybody believed.
and say,
The devil you could believe, but not God. I work in
uh,
my own way. I don't.
uh,
I don't get inside little children.
yeah,
They
how
got
did
enough
I
to do
forget
just being
that?
themselves. Also, I'm not about to go around every person in the world and say, "Look, it's me. I want to talk to you." So I picked one man, one very good man. I told him God lives. I live. He had trouble believing me too in the beginning. I understood. I'm not sure how this whole miracle business started. The idea that anyone connected with me has to be a miracle. Personally, I'm sorry that it did. Makes the distance between us even greater. But if a miracle helps you believe that I am who I say I am, I'll give you one. A good one. Let me see. What's my most impressive miracle? Aha. Pick a card. What? Pick a card. Any card.
When he announced performing a miracle and said, "What is my most famous one?" I thought he would make it start raining in the courtroom.
Oh.
As a reference to the Great Flood, which is one of God's most famous. Okay, maybe miracle is not the best word because what he did there in that part of the story was more like a genocide than miracle, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're trying to say. But that was kind of funny how he made it rain inside of Mr.
The
Lander's car.
yes,
And then he was
yeah.
stopped by an officer, and he was like, "Oh, my transmission must be leaking." And he's like, "Uh, I don't think it's your transmission. Oh, I must have had my windows open during the car wash that I just had."
Oh yeah.
But in any case, the next thing he does is he makes himself disappear, and he walks through the doors and and stands at the end there, and even though he showed up and everyone saw that he was there, I do think that the judge still had to go on evidence that was proven, and I do think that he took back the slant. He couldn't do the slander thing, but he also had no evidence to prove that God was there or even existed. So I still think at the end of the day, I don't think he won that court case.
Well, but the charges were dismissed, so he didn't have to pay anything. So I guess he didn't lose either.
Uh, or at least that's what we're supposed to be led to believe. But he still said something about evidence towards the end, because the evidence wasn't there that he even showed up. So I I, I assume that it was kind of a stalemate, but it was also kind of weird that they didn't record anything either. So um I'm not sure what happened there. In fact, they didn't even let us know. All they did was show us that Mr. Landers did, in fact, well, Mr. Landers was threatened by his corporation that he should quit while he was ahead, or else he could get fired. Well, he got fired. He got canned anyways in the end, and he got a phone call by God, and God showed up, and he basically told him he was not going to be, visiting him anymore, and he said, "Well, I lost my job." He's like, "Well, there are other jobs and other grocery stores in other areas," and he said that he was going on a wild safari with animals, but if he ever wants to talk to him, he will listen. So, and then he walked into the sunset. But I also seem to remember that his kids were, Mr. Lander's kids were trying to avoid him at one point in the series. Didn't seem like his family was. Although his wife was more accepting.
Yeah, she realized that he was telling the truth all along.
Well, yeah, but she also had to deal with the fact that the kids were being harassed at school and stuff like that, and whatnot. I don't think the kids were very accepting at all. In fact,
Oh yeah, when they said that he might be having menopause, that was hilarious.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit, okay.
But in any case, I guess we are now at the end of everything. So, what did y'all think about the production overall?
Well, for the most part, I think it's pretty good, especially for that time period, making rain in the cart. That was pretty well done. The only thing I kind of have issues with, and I think maybe it was possible to do it better even back then, although maybe I'm wrong, but when the cards were appearing and disappearing on the table, you could see in the moments when they disappear, you could see an abrupt change of position of God and the judge or whoever. Yeah, I think it was God and the judge. You could see that they paused filming, removed the cards, and then continued the filming. So their positions like skipped from one to the other, if you see what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure how to describe it better in English.
I see what you're trying to say, Mister. Too much time on his hands.
Mr. What?
Mister. Too much time on his hands.
Uh, Sorry, I guess.
When you have time to notice that, then you have too much time on your hands.
Ah, ah. Okay, now that you say that, it's interesting since I'm usually prone to failing to notice details the first time I'm watching some movie. So it's actually strange that I noticed this the very first time. But yeah, yeah. So
Well,
that's something.
I like to think that over time, since you've discussed movies with us, you've gotten to have a very good eye for detail.
Oh, you think? Well, thank you, I guess.
When I mean, even myself, and Tammy have started to, notice certain things that we never thought of noticing before since she's been part of these discussions. I mean, she never knew any directors' names. Now she's getting some of them down pat. But
Fair enough.
in any case, Tammy, what did you think of the production overall?
I thought the production was pretty good. I mean, there was nothing like off the wall or anything like that. I mean, it seemed pretty much pretty much down to earth. you know.
Yeah,
So
I could see that, and because this was a movie that was done with no CGI, I thought it was definitely pretty cool. I mean,
it was
uh,
unique when
I,
it's raining in the car, and then
Yeah.
when he opened the door and all the water came out.
yeah,
That was cool.
that was cool. Um, One of the things that I noticed was there was this exercise thing that the wife had in the very beginning. I kept wondering what the heck that thing was, and I swear to God, I've seen one of those things come into my mom's resale shop. It's hard
You
to
swear
believe that
to
they.
God, huh?
Yeah, I swear to God, I swear it.
Sorry, I had to.
Well, we do a lot of things in the name of God, don't we? But
Yeah.
in any case, yeah, I thought that the exercise thing was funky. That she was working with her hands. It was. I mean, I know that our country has made stupid shit like that. Uh, uh, but I almost wonder, do those things even fucking work? Uh, but uh,
Yeah.
in any case, thought that the especially the 2700 that seems to be the number of God in here, because and when he showed up as all these different people, like he was a busboy, he was a cabbie, um, he was a grocery store looker. Like when he tried to introduce God to a couple of ladies, he turned back and it was a black woman. You know,
I- yeah.
but just little moments like that. The As far as music goes, I thought the music was serviceable. I didn't really notice it per se, but I guess it went with it. Um, just gonna check and see who actually did the composing music for this real quick.
Oh, I did notice the instrumental in the ending credits, which sounded pretty nice, I must say.
Okay, so Jack Elliott was the one who did the music for it. And I guess he did some of the stuff behind Charlie's Angels and the Charlie's Angels movie.
Ooh.
And I guess he was part of the music department of Night Court. And I guess he was a composer of the new Night Court too. So Barney Miller. He was the composer for that theme music. He was a composer for the George Burns early TV special. So I guess back in 1981, George Burns was still alive. Um, I guess he he's worked with John Ritter. He was a conductor for the movie The Jerk. I guess he was a conductor for George Burns' 100th birthday party. That's right. He lived to be a regular old bird.
Bird.
Well, some people called him that. I guess he was
Interesting.
I guess he did some the music for the Dick Van Dyke Show, and so on and so forth. He's done a lot of stuff. Mostly TV comedy stuff, sitcoms, sitcom conductor. But in any case, let's go to favorite scenes and our favorite characters. So let's start with you, Tammy.
I guess I'll go with George Burns' God.
Okay.
And geez, there was more than one scene I liked. So I mean, I like I like it when he's talking to Jerry while he's in the shower, and then he doesn't want to come out, and he's like, "Yeah, that was another thing I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have made shame." you know, and you know, there was just a bunch of little things that I caught that I thought were,
Well, yeah,
like good, like the car scene.
he was trying to tell him that he was naked, and he was like, "That's nothing I haven't seen."
It was, then when he went up and down that elevator, and no matter what floor he picked, it was the 27th floor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Is that pretty
it was
much it
just a
then?
bunch of little ones that I liked, scenes I liked. So
Is that pretty much it then?
yep.
Okay. What about you, Boris?
Oh, uh, actually, it's kind of ironic since I'm far from a religious person, but when it comes to this movie, I think my favorite character would also be God, although Mr. Landers is probably my second favorite, uh, close second. They just had really good and hilarious dynamics, and yeah, it's kind of difficult to choose one over the other, as there what makes this movie as hilarious as it is. And my favorite scene, well, as Tammy says, most of the scenes, so those two interacting were amazing, but some of my favorite ones would probably be God answering the questions in the hotel room, and his appearance in the courtroom, and the Exorcist reference, and all that. Oh, and of course, raining in the car. And yeah, the bathroom moment was funny too. Kind of brings questions to mind, at least for people who actually believe in God, and to whom God is actually someone significant in their lives. Like, is God really watching us while we are having shower, or while we are masturbating, or whatever? It's kind of food for thought, to put it that way.
Well, yeah.
I
would
like
say
what you
so.
said too. You know, I never knew. I think John Denver's been. I don't know if he's been in any other movies, but I thought he did a good job, and that they did play really good off of each other. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think this was a good role for him, especially since uh, we know John Denver was in fact a believer of God because he spoke about God in his country music a lot, you know. So to have him be a non-believer, it was an interesting take, you know.
Mm, pretty much, yeah.
Um, and I like how George Burns put it. You're no worse or better than anyone else, you know. Uh, uh,
Uh,
as to one of the reasons why he chose him, you know.
Actually, I think he said something like, "You are better than some, but there are also some that are better than you," or something like that.
Something like that. But he chose him. So at the end of the day, he had no choice in the matter, as he put it, because he chose him and he was sticking to him. But um, oh, there were definitely quite a few moments that I liked. I like George Burns. I think he's my favorite character in here. Um, I did like that shower scene. That was kind of cool. Um, and the whole courtroom scene that was awesome. And the car scene that was priceless. So those three moments are pretty cool. Uh, but at the end of the day, is there anything else that anyone wants to say about this movie?
Ooh,
Oh,
ooh,
I did want to mention that Donald Pleasance from Halloween showed up in here.
ooh.
um, who else? I mean, that was just a very small cameo, but he showed up amongst those theologians. Uh, Holden, he's the one who gave him the questions.
ooh.
But in any case, other than that, anything else from you guys?
Well, nothing much is coming to my mind right now.
Okay.
Me neither. I thought it was a fun film. You know.
Oh yeah, and it's nothing that you can take out of context. I think it's very very healthy for the religious atmosphere. So yeah, so thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey we've been having. I hope you've had enough of a blast as we have discussing it. If you haven't seen the film, go out and see it, and come
Oh
back and
yeah.
let us know down here in the comments what you thought of the film and what you thought of our discussion. And I guess next week we're heading back over to the devil as as we continue along with the Ring franchise, right? Uh,
Ooh, ooh, fair enough. Although the ring doesn't really have that much to do with the devil, but okay, it's the horror genre. Uh, yeah, I thought unless okay, I do have ideas for some other movies, but yeah, I would kind of like to continue with the Ring franchise with the American, the Ring 2. But like I said, unless you guys would prefer another break from that franchise, I can choose something else.
well, we're fine with the Ring too. So, in any case,
Mm, fair enough.
on that note, uh, we'll see you next week here on Delusions of Grandeur. Everyone say good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night, good evening, and good morrow.